Hi, and welcome to a very special Kwanzaa edition of We Are Reading Virtual Storytime. Today we're going to read Little Rabbit's Kwanzaa by Donna L. Washington, and we're going to weave our own Mkeka, which is a mat traditionally used at Kwanzaa time. I hope you enjoy the story and have a great time making your mat. Little Rabbit's Kwanzaa by Donna L. Washington, illustrated by Shane W. Evans. Little Rabbit was not having a very good Kwanzaa. Being the littlest rabbit in the family wasn't easy. He couldn't remember the names of all the days. He wasn't allowed to light the candles. His brothers and sisters made wonderful gifts to share. Little Rabbit was too embarrassed to share his gifts. He hated being the youngest. He was always in the way, and everyone told him he was too little to help. The only part of Kwanzaa that he really loved was the big feast called Karamu, which happens on the 6th night of Kwanzaa. This year he wasn't even going to have that. Grandma Rabbit was sick. She lay in bed all day drinking dandelion tea. Mama Rabbit was so busy taking care of her, she didn't have time to cook. Mama, if Grandma Rabbit is sick, who will make the feast of Karamu? Little Rabbit asked his mother. Shame on you, Little Rabbit, his mama said. Grandma Rabbit is sick, and all you think about is your stomach. You go outside. Little Rabbit hopped out and sat on the big gnarled tree stump. He really wanted to go and talk to Grandma Rabbit. She was very wise. Little Rabbit sat and thought. He thought about all the things his Grandma said about Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is a special time when we help each other. That's what Grandma Rabbit said. That's it! Little Rabbit jumped up and danced around. I'll bring Grandma Rabbit a special treat for Karamu. That will make her feel better. Little Rabbit hopped down the road. Where are you going so fast? Mama Oriole asked Little Rabbit. I'm going to find a tasty treat for Grandma Rabbit. She's sick. I want her to have a good Karamu. Little Rabbit hopped away. Mama Oriole didn't know what Karamu was, but she knew Grandma Rabbit. Grandma Rabbit always brought out warm seed cakes and worm pudding when the weather got cold. Poor Grandma Rabbit, said Mama Oriole. I wish there were something I could do to help. Little Rabbit stopped by the side of the path. He was looking under some logs to see if he could find something special for Grandma Rabbit. What are you doing, Little Rabbit? Asked Groundhog, sticking his head out of a patch of grass. I'm trying to find a zawadi for Grandma Rabbit. She's sick and I want her to feel better. Little Rabbit hopped off. Groundhog didn't know what a zawadi was, which was an often handmade present given for Kwanzaa, but he knew Grandma Rabbit. She always had time to make little toys for the animals when they were bored. Poor Grandma Rabbit, said Groundhog. I wish there were something I could do to help. Little Rabbit hopped down to the pond. Maybe he could find something pretty for Grandma Rabbit. What are you doing, Little Rabbit? Asked the frogs. I'm looking for something pretty for Grandma Rabbit. She's sick. She should have something pretty to hang on the wall at Kwanzaa time. Little Rabbit scratched an ear and hopped away. The frogs didn't know anything about Kwanzaa time, but they knew Grandma Rabbit. She could paint beautiful pictures and write wonderful poems. Poor Grandma Rabbit, said one of the frogs. I wish there was something we could do to help. Little Rabbit hopped through the field looking for berries. Where are you going, Little Rabbit? Mama Field Mouse asked. She was dragging all of her children behind her. Grandma Rabbit is sick, said Little Rabbit. I'm going to make sure she has a good Karamu. I'm going to find as many berries as I can. Little Rabbit looked proud as he hopped through the meadow. Mama Field Mouse didn't know anything about Karamu, but she knew Grandma Rabbit. Grandma Rabbit helped out with the children when Mama Field Mouse had to run errands. Poor Grandma Rabbit, said Mama Field Mouse. I wish there was something I could do to help. Little Rabbit scampered through the trees.
Good morning, Little Rabbit, said Papa Squirrel. Why are you sniffing around the trees?
I'm looking for something to give Grandma Rabbit. She's sick and I want her to have a good Kwanzaa. Little Rabbit hopped away. Papa Squirrel didn't know anything about Kwanzaa, but he knew Grandma Rabbit. She always helped him gather nuts in the fall. She even helped him remember where he hid them.
Poor Grandma Rabbit,
said Papa Squirrel.
I wish there was something I could do to help.
Little Rabbit spent the whole day trying to find something for Grandma Rabbit. He searched as hard as he could, but he couldn't find anything at all. He was very sad. I guess I'm too little to do anything. And as the sun was setting, he hopped slowly home. When he opened the door, he had a big surprise. Everyone was there. Grandma Rabbit was sitting in the big chair with a huge smile on her face. The frogs had brought pink flowers from the lily pads. Mama and Papa Spider hung them from the ceiling like lanterns. Mama Oriole was conducting a fine chorus of birds. Groundhog brought little toys and gifts for everyone, and Mama Field Mouse had gotten together with Mama Possum and Mama Raccoon to make a delicious feast. The air was full of excitement. Mama Rabbit had served the plates, and Little Rabbit ate until he thought he would burst. After that, Papa Rabbit told funny stories about Brer Rabbit, Anansi the Spider, Guinea Fowl, and Mosquito. The stories made everyone laugh. Then Papa Spider plucked on his web strings, Cricket got out his fiddle, and all the animals had a wonderful dance. Grandma Rabbit taught everyone a new word. Harambe, she called out as her friends danced. It means let's pull together. We don't need anyone to tell us that, said Papa Squirrel. We already pulled together. Everyone laughed and shouted, Harambe, Harambe, Harambe! When the caramoo was over, Little Rabbit sat with his Grandma in the big chair. Why are you so sad? His Grandma asked. Didn't you have a good time? Yes, Little Rabbit said quietly, but I wanted to do something special for you. Grandma Rabbit just laughed. You silly rabbit, she said, hugging Little Rabbit tight. If you hadn't gone off looking for caramoo this morning, it never would have found its way here tonight. Little Rabbit frowned, but I'm the only one who didn't have anything to share. His Grandma smiled. You shared your dream, Little Rabbit, and your dream brought all of our friends and neighbors together. That's a big thing. Little Rabbit felt proud. My dream did all that? Yes, and I'm not surprised though, said Grandma. Why not? Little Rabbit asked. Because I have faith in you. And if you have faith, Little Rabbit, there's always hope. Oh, I'll try to remember that, said Little Rabbit, yawning. By the way, said Grandma Rabbit, snuggling him close, this was the best caramoo ever. The Nguzo Saba are the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Day 1, Umoja, is unity. Day 2, Kujichaguila, is self-determination. Day 3, Ujima, is working together. Day 4, Ujama, is supporting each other in business. Day 5, Nia, means purpose. Day 6, Kumba, is creativity. Karamu, of course, is the feast of Kwanzaa. Day 7 is Imani, or faith. And Zawadi are the presents you give at Kwanzaa. The end. Okay, so today's Kwanzaa craft will be to make our own Mkeka. The Mkeka is a traditional straw or woven textile mat. It's one of the 7 signs of Kwanzaa, and the people who celebrate Kwanzaa will use this as the base of the other 6 symbols, and it represents the idea that nothing can be built without having a foundation upon which to rest, which is actually quite nice. So we're not going to use straw. We're just going to go ahead and use construction paper. So what you need is a piece of black construction paper to make the base, and then you'll need red and green, and sometimes people put yellow into it, but the traditional colors are red and green construction paper to make the strips and we're going to weave into the black paper. So you'll also need scissors to cut the paper and also to cut the mat to give the strip something to go through. And I suggest a glue stick to stick down the edges of the construction paper strips, but that's up to you. So the first thing you're going to do is cut strips out of the paper. Now I did that in advance. I used, instead of the scissors, I used a paper cutter to do that. So these are all strips. I did them widthways across the paper, and they're about an inch wide. I measured them, but I'm not that great at sticking to it. And to get the strips in your black paper, all you do is fold it in half widthwise here. Make sure it's nice and in half. What you'll do is make 1-inch strips. You can measure it. That's what I did because I'm just like that. I used a ruler to measure it, but you just kind of cut up 1 inch by 1 inch, and you do that several times all the way down, getting them as even as possible. So you'll get like that. You see the strips, and of course, again, I did go ahead and cut that prior to this video. So we're gonna flatten that out. And all we're gonna do is alternate the colors, and we're gonna weave it through the mat. Now you can see some of these I didn't cut as far, so I'm gonna go ahead and fix that. It's not gonna be perfect, it's just more of a representation, and also it's got a lot of good qualities for kids. It's a very good math craft in a way, because we're talking about not only hand-eye coordination that you want for a sensory craft, but the math part that comes in with patterns. We're going to do alternating red and green, and then we're going to do alternating over under. So this one we're going to take over the first black, under the second, over the third, under the fourth, over the fifth, under the sixth, and you see we're counting as well, under the seventh, over the eighth, under the ninth, and over the 10th at the end. You want to push that as far as you can. I did cut that too far, so it's going to be crooked. You can make it straight. And then when you do the next one, the red one, you do the opposite. So we'll go under the first, and over the second, and under the third, over the fourth, under the fifth, over the sixth, under 7, over 8, over 9, and under 10. I don't know, I might have said that wrong, I'm not sure. And we don't have to glue it yet because we want to get them in the way we want them. So you can see you're already starting out little geometry. You got squares. Oh, sorry about the bell. I should have paid attention to what time it was. It's 2 o'clock. Oh, 3 o'clock, sorry. So you got your squares. You can talk about ratios, like right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green squares to 1, 2, 3, 4 red squares. You can talk about basically multiplication and division, like it takes 2 rectangles to make 9 squares. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with that. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and then we'll talk on the other side. Okay, so that's how we make it. And like I said, I'm going to just put a tiny dab of glue under each of these so that they don't slide out. Sorry. You could see how, okay. The final strip was the hardest because it was the snuggest. Just a little kind of glue will help you. I admittedly do not know very much about Kwanzaa. It's not something my family celebrated. However, the little bit that I've read so far about it, it's a very nice holiday. It's, the gifts that you give at Kwanzaa, if you recall from the story, are usually handmade. So they're, not commercial at all. It's all about giving from your heart and celebrating, the abundance of your life. And it's actually quite nice. We have lots of kids' books. Not too many story books about it, like the Little Rabbit book, but we do have lots of books about what Kwanzaa is and showing families celebrating it. And I really haven't looked to see if we have adult books about it, but if we don't, I'm going to make sure that I tell the director that we need to get some, because it's very interesting and really just a kind holiday. I really liked reading about it. But anyway, this is our Mkeka. You can talk about also how on one side the pattern is red, black, green. Did I put this the right way? I'm sorry, I can't even talk right now. Green, red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green. And on the other side, it's the same way, but if you look at it this way, the top row is all green, and if you look at it this way, the top row is all red. So it's different, and like I said, with ratios, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a 4 to 4 or a 1 to 1 ratio. There's all kinds of things you can do math-wise with this. But otherwise, it's just a very nice place to build for the rest of our symbols of Kwanzaa. Well, that's all the time we have for We're Reading Virtual Storytime Kwanzaa edition. I hope you had a great time, and happy Kwanzaa to all.